early morning at SeaTac, and the lines to check in are growing.
And you're going to be at checkpoint number 3 to the left.
While the vaccine has led to a rush of trips to reunite with family and leisure travel has brought crowds back to the airport, it's business travel that the airlines desperately need to make money.
First time I've been at an airport in a year.
Salesman David Annable is just now returning to the skies. Like many, he will travel less and continue with virtual meetings, a cost savings.
I will travel more than I did during the pandemic. Will travel less than I did prior.
While they have seen an increase in leisure travel, 80% of pre-pandemic levels, Alaska Airlines saw just 25% of its normal business travel in the first quarter of the year. The carrier is hopeful it will see that double by year's end. New CEO Ben Minicucci, just 2 months into the job, is optimistic.
The airline industry took a beating last year, and this year isn't all that pretty. How's the health of the airline?
With the pace of vaccinations increasing, we saw a significant step change in March. We actually, for the first time, achieved positive operating cash flow in March after 12 months of burning cash. So things are looking more optimistic. Leisure bookings are strong, almost to pre-pandemic levels.
Companies surveyed last summer showed great hesitancy in allowing travel, with 72% saying they would limit trips. But now, as more people are vaccinated, a recent study says 84% of business travelers say they cannot wait to travel again without fear of getting COVID. Most say they have missed business travel.
Alaska Flight 93.
I think I can easily say I've spent more hours on video conferencing than I have in the seats of airplanes. Are you worried that that may be the model going forward?
Maybe 6 months ago I was worried, but I think the more we get into it, we realize that people need that human interaction. I think companies feel like you still need that face-to-face. I think it's going to come back.
Would it be your hope that the government eventually dropped the mask requirement on airplanes?
Absolutely. I think as vaccinations increase, I think we've proven scientifically that the environment on board the aircraft is safe, with HEPA filters and the way the air circulates on the airplane. I'm hoping that the government does relax that policy. But for now, it is a federally mandated requirement, and we'll comply with that.
3 Delta 3 Foxtrot, please.
A looming pilot shortage is a concern for airlines worldwide. Experts say there could be as many as 34,000 open cockpit seats in the U.S., an aging workforce facing mandatory retirement at 65.
You have a sister airline here, Horizon. How is that allowing you to maybe confront this pilot shortage, before it bites you?
We started something called the Pathways program several years ago, and the purpose of the Pathways program was to be able to go out and find pilots who are interested to come to Alaska Air Group and say you have not only a career to come in and work for a Horizon, but you have a guaranteed interview to come work for a mainline airline. Alaska hires about a third of its pilots from Horizon.
Alaska pilot April Ayers is a graduate of the Pathways program. She's been at Alaska for more than 9 years.
Pathways, honestly, for me, changed my life in the sense that I was able to realize my career goal of being a major airline pilot in half the amount of time, and starting that career off, at a younger age was everything I dreamt of when I was a child.
What was the thought in creating this aircraft, the commitment, as you call it?
The airplane is more about us and what we need to do as a company to make sure that it's top of mind, that we hold ourselves accountable, and we move the needle on racial diversity and equity over the next 5 years.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.